we often talk about this in terms of rewiring, right? You're using AI to get better in each category, maybe more efficient, maybe smarter, maybe even more strategic, but also maintaining some sort of formation, I guess, while you're doing all that. Rewires a lot of the management thinking too. So I think there's a lot of connectivity across as well, right?
So, Clark, I think you said something interesting there. You used the phrase or the word tech stack, and I think there's some interesting things happening going on there. So, for example, I think the hardware folks are going to be some of the winners. Apple, for example, people love just how all those pieces go together. I'm sure you've heard, and many folks have heard about OpenClaw, right? And everybody's deploying OpenClaw on Mac Minis now, but it's because all those pieces come together and just work so well, and the security and the privacy is solid. But then you also look at things like the RAM prices. Memory prices have skyrocketed, and it's all these data center build outs. It's all the utilities. It's the GPUs, of course, with NVIDIA. I mean, the amount of billions they're making in profit every quarter is mind boggling. And then, of course, the LLMs, the models. So these folks are really in a very strong position. These network folks, these compute folks, these data center folks. And then I do think it gets interesting for the SaaS providers. You're seeing it in the stock market. Hot SaaS companies losing 40% of their value practically overnight. I do
Yeah.
think that world is changing because so many of these products are just becoming irrelevant because you can just do it with some hardware, some networking, and the LLM.
Yeah, absolutely. There are it's kind of the classic picks and shovels again, right? They're going to be winners and losers in what creek is picked to try to find this gold, but you're going to need Levi's, you're going to need picks, you're going to need shovels, all of them.
Yes.
Um, and I know you've really, and I know that you've knelt in these streams, right? I know that you're really digging in with this stuff, as I mentioned in your intro. Can you share with us maybe an example of two that really unlocked for you uh, what the kind of the scope and the urgency and how you were going to have to rewire with the advent of AI in helping your clients and helping your organization?
Yeah, I think that marketers, we have to decide how deep down the rabbit hole we're going to go. And I decided I'm all in. But I don't think that's something or that's required for everybody. I think there's going to be a lot of different options and opportunities and spaces for people to occupy. But I've gone all in. So I was really big into ChatGPT. I remember when ChatGPT came out, it was awesome. I had a client who had beta or early access to Bing. And I remember when Bing first came out, it had internet search and ChatGPT didn't. And I was like, oh my gosh, the CEO is second guessing my recommendations. So I had to get onto Bing. And then, of course, you had Perplexity and all that sort of thing. But ChatGPT just seemed to work, and I was a big loyalist. And after I left my last full time gig, I was building a web page, and ChatGPT just kept hiccuping. And so I tried my $20 Claude subscription, and it was able to figure it out. And then before you know it, I was using Claude Code. And I didn't know sort of how I was going to go about this or where I was going to go. But, there's all sorts of options. But I ended up with VS Code, which is a integrated development environment with the Claude Code plugin, using GitHub and using Cloudflare. And it's just a really powerful tool set for building websites. And that just sort of got me from using ChatGPT and Claude in the web to using sort of that development environment, even though I'm a marketer. And then from there, I went from building websites, something that would take 2 or 3 months, I was able to put together in 4 days or 9 days for the outcome marketing website. It's just crazy how fast you can go, and the content's better, and it connects things better as well. So from there, I went and built my first app, this digital diagnostic, this competitive landscape diagnostic, which before would take a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 people. Now it's done in 10 minutes, and it's much more in depth. It shows how your presence is across the different AI LLMs, across your different competitors and yourself, how you shape up with the different conversations to own. And so to do that, I use Vercel and Supabase, which are two hot products out there in the AI world. And now I've just gone to my third evolution. So gone from sort of building websites to building apps to building bots. And so why use OpenClaw when you can have your own agents? So my first agent just came alive a couple days ago, and I pasted a screenshot from my agent who was replying to me in Google Chat because he's integrated into Google Chat. His name is Shep because he's the air traffic controller or the shepherd or the Sherpa. And I pasted that screenshot saying, it basically said, I'm alive, I'm not thinking yet, right? Because I hadn't wired him into an LLM, into Claude Code. And Claude Code responded and said, Shep's alive, stage 2 complete.